So you can't sit here. We don't allow people like you making our customers uncomfortable. The man lowers his head, his voice soft, respectful, almost apologetic. I just wanted some warmth. Maybe a coffee if I can scrape together. But before he can finish, the manager snaps. Out now or I'll call the cops. His words cut deeper than the cold outside. The cafe murmurs, whispers of pity, others of agreement, some people just staring at their lattes pretending nothing is happening. And there it is, that sting. Racism dressed up as policy. Poverty mistaken for danger. Humanity stripped in front of strangers. The man's name is David Carter. Once a construction worker, strong hands that built homes for others, but when the company collapsed and an injury kept him from steady work, the system chewed him up. Bills piled, savings gone, one paycheck missed, then another, and soon his apartment door was locked behind him. Overnight, he was just another black man loitering on the streets. Zoom on David's face, close-up of pain mixing with quiet dignity. His eyes dart to the people watching. A woman in the corner shakes her head, disgusted not at him but at how he's treated. But she says nothing. Silence becomes complicity, and the manager pushes again. I said leave now. David shuffles out back into the rain, humiliation soaking deeper than water. But what no one knew, not the manager, not the whispering customers, not even David himself, was that in just 1 hour, everything would change, because life has a way of writing irony sharper than any pen. Now let's rewind. Let's step into David's world. Before this moment, before the cafe humiliation that set everything in motion, David grew up in Atlanta, Georgia. A tight-knit black family, Sunday church hats, barbecue smoke in the summer, a mother who told him, baby, this world may not give you respect, but you walk with dignity anyway. He listened. He worked hard. He became a foreman at a construction firm, owned a modest house, drove a second-hand Ford truck, but it was his. Life wasn't easy, but it was his. Then, the 2008 recession hit. Projects stalled. Layoffs came. David held on as long as he could, but eventually he was cut too. Savings dwindled. When he found work again, it was less steady. Then came the accident. A scaffolding collapse left him with a back injury. Not bad enough for disability, but bad enough to slow him down. And in America, slowing down means falling behind. 1 eviction notice. Then 2. By the 3rd, the sheriff stood at his door. That's when he learned how quickly respect can turn into invisibility. Neighbors he'd shared meals with suddenly crossed the street to avoid him. Employers saw his address on a shelter application and quietly moved on to the next candidate. And now, here he was, walking into that cafe, not just for warmth, but for a shred of humanity. But what happened there, the manager throwing him out like trash, was about to spark a twist no one in that cafe would ever forget. Drop a comment telling me where you're watching from. And don't forget to subscribe to Axiom USA for more powerful true stories. But let's linger for a moment, because stories like David's aren't rare. Every city has them. You've seen it. A man asking for change outside a store, a woman holding a sign by the highway. And you wonder, what's their story? How did they get here? Are they dangerous, lazy? Or are they just like David? Hardworking once, proud once, now invisible in a society that values status over soul. Inside that cafe, the scene replayed like an old American movie. The white manager standing tall, authority dripping from his badge and pressed shirt. David hunched, eyes lowered, careful not to trigger anger. That dynamic, one of power, one of survival, isn't just about coffee shops. It's about centuries. About who gets seen as human and who gets seen as a problem to be removed. And the customers? They became the chorus of history. Some whispered, "That's not right." Others muttered, "He doesn't belong here." And most stayed silent. Because silence is easy, silence feels safe. But silence is never neutral. David walked into the storm, rain splattering his thin jacket. Each step heavy, but his mother's voice echoed in his head. Walk with dignity. So he did, even as humiliation burned. But destiny works in shadows. And just down the block, David's story was about to take a turn. Because unknown to that arrogant cafe manager, David still had one connection left. An old friend, a lawyer named Marcus Hayes. And Marcus was about to change everything. Marcus and David grew up together. Same block, same high school. Marcus made it out, scholarships, law degree, a firm that respected him. Mostly. But even he faced the sting of racism daily. The assumptions. The "you must be the diversity hire" comments whispered behind closed doors. Still, he fought his way up. And when David hit rock bottom, Marcus tried to help. A job lead here, a meal there. But David's pride sometimes got in the way. That afternoon, Marcus was headed to a meeting. A meeting with an investor group. A meeting inside that very cafe, and in exactly 1 hour, the humiliation that manager thought would be the end of David's dignity would be the beginning of his downfall. But before we reach that moment, we need to see what brewed inside that cafe as the clock ticked closer. Upstairs, the private meeting room buzzes with suits and handshakes. This cafe isn't just a cafe. It's the ground floor of a building owned by investors. And today, those investors are here. Among them, Marcus Hayes, David's old friend. He arrives sharp, polished, carrying files, his reputation on the line. He doesn't know that moments ago his childhood friend was thrown out of the same building like garbage. Fate is funny like that. The meeting begins. Investors sip coffee, exchange pleasantries. Marcus presents plans for a community redevelopment project. His voice steady but passionate. He talks about restoring neighborhoods, creating affordable housing. Some nod, impressed. Others lean back, skeptical. And across the table sits the building's cafe manager. Yes, the very same man who humiliated David. Not just a manager. He's also a minority stakeholder puffed up with self-importance. Marcus doesn't recognize him. Not yet, but the man remembers Marcus. He knows Marcus represents the kind of progress that makes men like him uncomfortable. A black man, educated, confident, commanding respect. He hides it behind a smile, but resentment seeps through every word he speaks. Interesting plan, he says with a smirk. But let's be honest, do people in those communities really deserve prime property? His tone is slick, casual, but the poison is there. Marcus pauses. He's been here before. Veiled racism dressed as business talk. He counters calmly. Everyone deserves dignity. Housing isn't about who deserves it, it's about who needs it. His words hang heavy. Some investors nod. The manager rolls his eyes, sipping coffee like the conversation is beneath him. Down the street, David sits on a bench soaked in rain, pulling his jacket tighter. He doesn't know Marcus is upstairs, speaking his name without knowing it. But he does know humiliation doesn't wash off in the rain. He stares at the cafe, that warm glow, the laughter inside. And a fire stirs. For the first time in weeks, he feels something stronger than despair. Resolve. Flashback hits. David remembers being a teenager, sneaking into that same neighborhood cafe years ago with Marcus. Back then, they were just two kids with dreams. They were laughed at for ordering the cheapest drink, but they didn't care. They said one day they'd own buildings like this. One day they'd be the ones deciding who belonged. That memory clings to David like a spark in the storm, and then irony sharpens. Because what no one inside knows, what David himself barely remembers in his haze of shame, is that through an inheritance, through paperwork he almost forgot, he actually still holds a stake in this very property. A small one, buried in legal filings, something Marcus himself helped arrange years back when David's uncle passed. At the time it meant nothing. But tonight, it's everything. Meanwhile, tension brews inside the cafe meeting room. The manager leans forward, voice louder now. Look, let's be real. We can't just let anyone come into these spaces. You let homeless people hang around. Suddenly, the good customers leave. Places like this need standards. Otherwise, you ruin the whole vibe. His words sting more than coffee burns. The investors shift uncomfortably. Some nod, others frown. Marcus locks eyes with him. Are you saying people's worth is measured by their wallets? Marcus asks, steady, his voice carrying the weight of decades of battles not fought in boardrooms but in streets, schools, courtrooms. The manager smirks. I'm saying we don't need freeloaders bringing down the image of our brand. And there it is. The mask slips. Racism, classism, arrogance, naked in front of everyone. The silence thickens. A few investors glance at each other. This is messy. But Marcus doesn't back down. If that's your definition of brand, maybe you're in the wrong business. The room freezes. The manager's jaw tightens. He's used to people folding under his smug authority. But Marcus? He's not David, he doesn't bow. Back outside, David rises from the bench. His body aches, but something inside him tells him not to leave. He starts walking, slowly, toward the very building that spat him out. not knowing yet that destiny is already pulling strings inside. As he approaches, he notices the same young barista from earlier stepping out for a break. She sees him. Recognition flickers, guilt in her eyes. For a moment, she almost apologizes, but words catch in her throat. Instead, she offers him a napkin with a sandwich wrapped inside. Her eyes say what her lips don't. "I'm sorry." He takes it quietly, nods, dignity intact. Small kindness, but it matters. Back upstairs, Marcus presents the final part of his proposal. Imagine a city where no one is invisible, where even those on the margins are seen, respected, given a chance to rebuild. That's not charity, that's justice. His words slice through the air. Silence follows. Investors scribble notes. Some nod deeply. The manager scoffs, muttering just loud enough. Justice doesn't pay rent. Marcus hears. He smiles faintly, but his eyes steel. He knows something the manager doesn't, because in Marcus's briefcase sits a file with paperwork showing the true ownership of this property, and David's name inked right there. Marcus hasn't said it yet. Timing matters. But oh, when the reveal comes. If this story has you hooked, hit like and share it to support Axiom USA. Meanwhile, David lingers outside, watching through the glass, unaware that upstairs, his future is being debated. His mind drifts again. Flashback, his mother's kitchen. The smell of cornbread. Her voice sharp but loving. "Baby, the world will try to break you. But remember, no matter how they treat you, your worth isn't up for debate." Those words replay. They wrap around him like armor. And that's when the door opens. A man in a suit walks out, phone pressed to his ear. He bumps into David, barely looks at him. "Watch it," the man mutters, dismissive, not realizing who he's speaking to. David clenches his fist, then releases. "Not today. Not yet." Inside, Marcus wraps up. Investors murmur approval. But the manager, red-faced now, interrupts. "Let's not kid ourselves. People like him don't belong in places like this. They drag down property values, scare away customers. That's just reality. The irony? At that very moment, David, the man he'd thrown out, the man he said didn't belong, is walking back toward the door. Toward the truth. Toward justice. And that's where we leave this act. The humiliation has simmered into rage, and the stage is set for confrontation. But trust me, you haven't seen irony until you see who truly owns the ground that man is standing on. David steps inside. Customers whisper. Some gasp. Isn't that the man who was just thrown out? The barista who gave him the sandwich freezes mid-step, eyes darting nervously between him and the manager. The manager's face twists. He stands abruptly, voice booming. "You again? I told you you're not welcome here." He storms across the floor, finger jabbing at David's chest. "Out before I call security. You don't belong here." His words echo sharp, cruel. David doesn't flinch this time. He just stands taller, drenched jacket dripping on the tile. He whispers, barely audible but strong, "We'll see about that." The room hushes. A micro cliffhanger. Upstairs, Marcus seizes the silence. He unlatches the briefcase, slides out a thick file. His voice is steady but electric. "Before we close this meeting, I'd like to address ownership." He lays the papers flat on the polished table. This building, including this cafe, has multiple stakeholders. Some of you know the details. But there's one name on this file that hasn't been spoken in years. A name that deserves recognition. A name you just tried to throw out onto the street. He flips the page dramatically. Investors lean forward. The manager's smirk falters. And Marcus reads, "David Carter." The cafe erupts, gasps, chairs scrape. The manager's eyes widen, jaw unhinged. He sputters, "What?" "That's impossible." He's just... But Marcus cuts him off, voice booming like a gavel. He's part owner. By legal inheritance. His stake may have been silent, but it's binding. And while you humiliated him on the floor of his own building, you forgot one thing. Justice doesn't check wallets before it checks truth. David blinks, stunned. His knees nearly buckle. He doesn't remember signing papers. Doesn't understand the tangle of legal threads Marcus unraveled years ago after his uncle's passing. But in this moment, it doesn't matter. The truth is here. The cafe that threw him out belongs in part to him. The irony is so sharp it cuts the room in half. The manager stammers, No, this is a mistake." He's nothing but a homeless. He stops, realizing every word digs him deeper. Investors glare. Customers watch from the glass wall like it's theater. One investor, a stern woman in a gray suit, interrupts sharply. "Careful. That man is your co-owner. And you've just exposed your prejudice in front of all of us. Her words slice the air. The manager's face flushes crimson. David's hands tremble. He steps forward, voice still soft but steady now. All I wanted was a place to sit. A coffee, some dignity. But you saw trash instead of a man. Now you know I belong here more than you ever did. The cafe falls into silence. That silence is heavier than any shout. And then, one by one, customers begin to react. A young black couple claps softly. The Latina barista lets out a breath she's been holding, tears welling in her eyes. An older white man in the corner shakes his head, muttering, "About time." The community is waking up. Shame on some faces, pride on others. But the manager isn't done. His arrogance runs too deep. He points a trembling finger at David. "This is a setup. You don't deserve this. You're not fit to own anything. Look at you." He gestures at David's ragged clothes, his soaked shoes. "You're a disgrace to this place. You'll ruin us all." His voice rises, shrill, desperate. Marcus stands, tall, imposing, every inch the lawyer and the boy from the block who's had enough. "The only disgrace here is your hatred. Ownership isn't about the suit you wear. It's about the truth written in law, and the law is clear. David Carter is a rightful landlord of this property." Which means, he turns to David, eyes blazing with justice. "This cafe doesn't get to throw you out. You get to decide if they stay." The crowd gasps again. The power shifts so fast it's dizzying. The manager stumbles back, the smug grin gone, replaced by panic. He realizes the tables have turned, literally. The man he tried to erase is now the man who holds his fate. David swallows hard, his dignity rising above his shame. He looks at the investors, then at the customers, then at the trembling manager. His voice cracks but carries. "For years, people like me have been invisible, ignored, judged by the dirt on our shoes instead of the work of our hands. Today I stand not just for me, but for everyone who's ever been told they don't belong." His words electrify the room. Mini cliffhanger lands. Will David choose revenge or grace? The tension holds. Outside, rain slows. Sunlight peeks through clouds, faint but symbolic. Inside, the cafe feels like a courtroom. Everyone waits for David's verdict. The manager, now sweating, blurts out excuses. It was a misunderstanding. "I didn't mean—" His voice falters under the weight of his own hypocrisy. David tilts his head, irony curling in his tone. "Funny. 1 hour ago you didn't give me the chance to explain. You didn't care if I meant anything. You judged me by my jacket, by my skin, by my struggle. And now you beg for understanding?" The crowd murmurs in agreement. The power of irony hangs heavy. Marcus steps forward, voice smooth but sharp. The decision is his, because justice isn't abstract. It's personal. And there we pause, the moment thick with suspense. What will David choose? To strike back with the same cruelty shown to him? Or to rise higher, showing that dignity once restored can't be broken? Want to hear more untold stories of injustice and resilience? Subscribe to Axiom USA and never miss one. David looks around, breathing deeply, his soaked jacket still dripping on the polished floor. Every eye in the cafe is on him. The barista leans forward, whispering, "Say it. Say what they need to hear." Marcus's hand rests lightly on David's shoulder, a silent brother's support. The manager sways on his feet, pride shattered, entitlement exposed, and then David speaks, calm, clear, strong. "This cafe, it will remain open. Not because you deserve it, but because the people deserve a place to gather. But you—" He turns to the manager, eyes locked, unblinking. "Are done. Effective immediately," gasps Ripple. The manager chokes, stutters, pleads, but David's decision is final. The investors nod, relief and justice mixing on their faces. Marcus smiles faintly, proud. The customers erupt, some clapping, some cheering, some simply stunned at witnessing history in real time. The power has shifted. Justice has landed. The man who was invisible an hour ago now stands as the landlord, the one with the final word. And yet, David doesn't smile. He doesn't gloat. He simply stands tall, dignity his only crown, because true justice isn't about humiliation, it's about restoration. And today, dignity has been restored. Marcus steps forward, steadying the storm with his calm voice. "It's done. The papers are clear. The investors have spoken. David Carter is part owner, and as landlord, his decisions stand." His eyes sweep the room, daring anyone to challenge it. No one does. Even the investors, hardened by years of profit-driven logic, nod in silent agreement. They know the truth when it's undeniable. David inhales deeply, then exhales like a man releasing years of weight. He turns, scanning the faces around him. Some filled with pride, others with shame, many with awakening. He says softly but firmly enough to cut through the room. Today isn't about me. It's about what happens when we stop pretending we don't see injustice. When we stop staying silent. You all saw what happened when I walked in. Most of you said nothing. That silence, and that's how injustice survives. His words pierce. Customers drop their eyes, guilty, reflective. Others nod, moved. The barista bites her lip, then whispers just loud enough. Never again. David nods to her, offering a faint smile. Small acts of courage matter. He knows it now more than ever. The manager, still trembling, tries one last plea. Please, I didn't know. I thought, he chokes, but David raises a hand to silence him. You thought you could decide my worth by my appearance. You thought you could erase me because it was convenient. But today your power ends, not because I want revenge, but because I want this place to stand for more than arrogance and hate. His words settle heavy, leaving no room for argument. The irony is thick. An hour ago, David begged for a seat. Now the seat of power is his. He doesn't revel in it. He respects it. That difference, that dignity, is what separates him from the man now stripped of authority. The investors step forward. One, the stern woman in gray, extends her hand. Mr. Carter, welcome home. David shakes it, his rough, calloused hand gripping hers firmly. The symbolism is clear. The invisible man is now undeniable. The dispossessed is now the decision-maker. Marcus claps a hand on David's shoulder. You good? David exhales, eyes wet but unbroken. I think. For the first time in a long time, yeah. They share a look. The bond of brothers who survived storms different but connected. Marcus smiles faintly. Told you we'd own a place like this one day. David chuckles through the weight of it. Yeah, just didn't think it'd happen like this. Humor cuts the tension, a necessary irony. Even in the darkest storms, laughter is proof of survival. The manager is escorted out by security, his protests dwindling into silence. Outside, rain has stopped. The sun breaks through clouds, light flooding the street. Symbolism as if the universe itself approves. David steps to the window, watching the world beyond. For the first time in months, maybe years, he sees possibility instead of despair. He turns back to the cafe. Customers approach, some offering apologies, others congratulations. The barista steps forward, tears in her eyes. I'm sorry I didn't say something sooner. David places a gentle hand on her shoulder. You did enough. Next time, don't wait. She nods, understanding. Seeds of change planted. Now the resolution broadens. Because this isn't just about a cafe. It's about America. About who gets seen, who gets silenced, who gets erased, and who gets restored. David's story is personal, but it's also universal. The humiliation of being judged by race, by class, by circumstance. The resilience of refusing to stay invisible. And the justice of irony delivering its blow at the perfect moment. Marcus gathers the papers, tucks them back into the briefcase. He looks at David. So, landlord, what's next? David scans the cafe. The warm light, the people, the community. His answer comes slow, deliberate. We make this place different. A cafe where no one's turned away for looking like they don't belong, because everyone belongs somewhere. And maybe this can be that place. Applause breaks again. Not loud, not forced, genuine. The cafe feels lighter, freer. Justice doesn't just punish, it rebuilds. And that's what David chooses, to rebuild. Now comes the closing cinematic beat. Camera pans upward, soft music swelling. The street glistens from rain, reflecting sunlight. David steps outside, Marcus beside him. The world hasn't changed overnight. Racism still lingers. Injustice still lives. But in this corner of the city, for this moment, dignity has been restored. David lifts his face to the sun. He whispers, half to himself, half to the world. Mama was right. Walk with dignity, even when they try to strip it away. Thanks for watching Axiom USA, where every story reminds us of resilience and truth. Like, share, and subscribe for more. The story closes not with revenge, but with justice rooted in dignity. David's triumph wasn't humiliating his oppressor, but proving that worth isn't defined by poverty or prejudice. The moral land's clear. Racism thrives on silence, but justice thrives on courage. One voice, one act can tip the scales.